hot brew, then spat it out. How can anyone ruin a pot of coffee? He poured the rest on the ground and looked toward the eastern horizon, where the nascent sun floated on the edge of the Mediterranean Sea. Finally, a sunrise. My last morning. He observed the effects of those first rays of sunlight hitting the rock formations around him. The hues, the shadows. I need pictures. He retrieved his camera from the boat and snapped away. Satisfied he'd captured the best shots he could in that rare lighting, he walked toward the north side of the island to photograph Enrico on the southern end, burning the bacon one last time. He found himself next to a skull-shaped rock formation he'd named Old Man. He called it that because it reminded him of an artist's rendering of a Neanderthal whom he'd nicknamed Old Man that hung on a wall in his office. Whenever a student came to see him and asked an incoherent question, he would point to the picture and suggest they rephrase it. Old Man stood a few feet in front of another large rock he'd named Old Lady. I suppose you two have been together for, what, 1 billion years? So you were here at the time. Where'd he hide it? It can't still be here, can it? You'd tell me if you knew, right? You're about as talkative as God. I should spray paint a face on you. If I gave you a mouth, would you tell me? By the way, your pictures don't do you justice. You're actually a fine-looking rock. But is it me, or do you look different today? Mr. Adam, breakfast is ready. He turned off the camera and headed for the boulder he usually sat on at mealtimes. Enrico handed him a plate of bacon with eggs and the last biscuit from the bag they'd brought from Messina. He thanked him and stared at the crisp, black bacon strips. He shook his head and looked at Enrico. Aren't you hungry, Mr. Adam? Did you get good pictures? He turned the camera on and navigated through the menu options to find his recent photos. He paused at one of Old Man and studied the LCD screen, then turned his gaze and focused on the large rock across the island. Here, look at these. He jumped off his perch and handed Enrico the camera. I'll be right back. He returned from the boat with his satchel and searched through it until he found 2 photographs with Old Man in the background. The first had been taken by the German Navy during World War II, the second by the American Navy after they'd run the Germans off. Something puzzled him. Enrico, do you see the difference? He held the 2 photos for his companion, who examined them with keen interest. See. The 2 large rocks, the one in the back is different in the second picture. The top is not there. That's right. I'll bet the Americans blew it off in the war. I don't know how I missed that, but I need to go take a closer look. Now? Don't you want to finish your breakfast? No. He ran to Old Man and climbed it, then jumped over to Old Lady. He peered at the ground between the 2 rocks and spotted what had to be her top resting against the back side of Old Man. He scrambled down and found a handhold. With arms flexed and feet firmly planted against the base of Old Man, he pulled with all the force he could muster. A budge. Enrico? If I compliment his breakfast, he may help. The young man scarfed down the rest of his breakfast and accompanied him back to the rock. Together the 2 managed to tilt it back about a foot, but when they let go, it fell back to its original position. I have a pry bar on the boat. I'll get it. When Enrico returned, they pulled on the rock again, and when it moved, he thrust the steel bar beneath it. On the count of 3, they lifted upward on the bar and angled the rock another foot away from Old Man. Can you hold it there? He asked. I'll try. He jumped behind the rock and grabbed the handhold he'd used before. He felt his neck veins bulging as he strained to move the obstruction. When the massive rock gained momentum, he hopped out of the way and watched it fall. What Old Lady's crown had hidden since the 1940s now lay exposed. By God, Enrico, that's got to be a cave. A stack of rocks had been skillfully wedged into the opening, forming a barrier that might have prevented most people from gaining access to the cave, but not a determined archaeologist in a bad mood. After clearing out the impediments, he knelt in front of the entrance and extended his right hand inside and let it wander, but found nothing. Undaunted, he lay down on the ground against the bottom of Old Man and repeated